Welcome to another episode of Spirit Rising with Psychic Sharyn Rose. Today we're doing part 3 with Jess and Jima. We're talking about surviving narcissism. Now that Jess has been out of the relationship for a year and a half, how is she doing and what are the top tools she used, tried, and recommends to other abuse survivors? Listen to these fabulous tips that might help you as well if you're in a similar situation. So let's get started.
Today is episode 3 with Jess, my granddaughter. So it's Jess and Jima. And what we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about surviving after the first year, surviving the narcissist, and what kind of tools Jess has been able to use, what she found that worked for her, and what she found never became an issue for her. Hi, Jess. Are you there?
Hey, yep.
Hey, how are you this morning?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. It's good to talk to you. And I'm looking forward to going over this topic. Now, Jess, you and I have already done episode 1 and 2, and maybe we can just recap a little bit. Episode 1, we talked about your situation while you were inside the relationship with your narcissistic partner, correct?
Yes, yep.
And then when we did episode 2, we talked about what it was like after in the first year, like after you first left. What was it like to survive that first year? I think I'm on point here, right?
Yep, that's exactly right, yep.
Okay, so today we're going to talk about, we've actually selected 10 different tools that are possible tools anybody can use when they're surviving it, pretty much any kind of abuse. But in this particular case, we're talking about narcissism. And Jess is going to talk about which ones she's used, because Jess, how long has it been now since you've been out of that relationship?
A year and a half.
A year and a half. So you're into your second year. October would be your 2-year anniversary, correct? Yeah. What Jess is going to do is she's going to talk about or share with you some of the techniques that she used that we call tools. And when you hear us talk about tools, we're talking about techniques and different things you can do to help you become bigger, better, stronger. And you can't build a good, strong, healthy life from a broken life any better than a carpenter can build a house without a hammer. You've got to have tools. So these are the tools, some of the tools that Jess has used. And we may not have all her tools on our list, so she'll let us know. But let's get started with some of the tools that I know, has explored or she has used. So the first one I want to talk about, Jess, did you ever use any therapy technique or any therapy?
Yeah, so I didn't actually go see like a therapist and go pay money for, therapy like that. But with my grandmother, I did do a lot of therapy sessions with her. So just learning how to deal with it and how to cope with it, being out of the relationship and just being alone. And I think that helped me quite a bit. So I do think therapy is something that might not work for every single person, but is a good option. It's good to talk to somebody about it.
It's good. And I'm glad you brought up, I didn't pay money to go. There are people out there in the industry of mental health that deal with specifically bipolar disease, narcissism disease, all kinds of mental disorders. And it's good to go and see one of those if you've really come from a highly abusive environment and you're really stuck. I am a psychic life coach and medium. So for me, having a knowledge of Jess's story from before she met this gentleman gave me some insight. So it actually worked really well for me to work as her therapist, which a lot of people would say, well, that's kind of a conflict, yada, yada, yada. No, I had her best interest at heart like I do with all my clients. And if it wasn't making a difference, I would have definitely suggested she go elsewhere. But it worked. I think that what we did worked anyways. Put your feet on the ground anyway, Jess?
Oh, totally. Yes, definitely.
Yeah, good. Okay, so let's go into another section, which would be self-care. How did you improve or practice, or did you practice, and how did you change your self-care in this last year?
So I do think I definitely have been taking care of myself a lot better. In one of our previous episodes, we did talk about how I did go through a little bit of a rough patch with overeating and all that. But I think after I overcame that, I definitely have been taking a lot of better care of myself. I go for walks. That helps me a lot. Go for walks, put music in my ears, and just forget about everything for a minute, enjoy the nice weather, enjoy the birdies and the trees, and so nature was definitely one of the things that helps me a lot. I love doing stuff outside.
Jess, you were also talking about, I can remember through this last year, you also were doing a workout program. You actually reconnected a lot with your family. Has that assisted you in your health, in your self-care?
Yes, I have a great family, so that helps too, because I know some people don't have as much of a support system when it comes to their family. So yes, I'm definitely grateful that I had my family to fall back on, because they came with open arms, accepted me again, and didn't even, like, nobody was mad at me. They didn't question why, they just knew, she needs help. She needs us right now. So yes.
Yeah, that's good. That's just because you're so darned irresistible, Jess.
Oh.
Okay, that's good. So self-care really is, you think that changing some of the self-care habits you have, because it's true, when you're living with somebody who's very self-oriented themselves, then your whole focus becomes all about them, and you forget how to take care of yourself, don't you?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, I think it was almost easy to, when being alone, I think it was almost easy to take care of myself more, because there was nobody around me for me to worry about except for myself, right? So, yeah. Yeah, and my cat.
Okay, let's go on to the next one. The third one is journaling. Have you had any experiences with journaling?
Yes and no. So I'm not a steady journaler, but I definitely, when we were talking about stuff, when this all started, we definitely wrote down a lot of things, and I let a lot of stuff out, like the tool that you gave me to write a letter to the narcissist and then get rid of it. So whether that is putting it in the fire pit or ripping it up in a million pieces and throwing it out, but never sending it to the narcissist, that actually helps me quite a bit, because it got all those feelings that I wanted to get out without actually opening up the door again to him.
Yeah. Because journaling, that's one of the tools. Writing is so powerful, and I'm glad that you did that letter, and I'm glad that it helped you. But journaling on a daily basis can really, really make a difference. Do you recommend it, do you think?
Yeah, I think it is. Like, it might not work for everyone, like a lot of these things, but if you're somebody who it helps if you get your thoughts out of your head, I think putting them on paper can really help.
Yeah, it can clarify them too, can it? Because
Yes.
sometimes your thoughts go around and around in your head. When you write them down, you go, wait a minute, that's not that big a deal.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, or it's a bigger deal than I was giving it credit for.
Was I in a bad state when I wrote this, or was I, and then you can say, okay, I was feeling that way at that time, but I'm not always feeling like that, or,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Recognizing yourself. Yeah.
Okay, the next one, number 4, we've got down here is support groups. What's your experience with that type of environment, Jess? Did you have any experience with that?
So no, I never went to a support group. Again, I don't know if it would have helped me or not, because I never went to one, but I think that it could help some people, but I also think it could be damaging as well.
It can be, and it's kind of interesting because support groups can do one of two things. Again, like Jess said, it can support you and help you grow, or it can keep you stuck in your issue because the focus is on the issue. And sometimes that's not so healthy. So it depends. If you're going to join a support group, you want to do a little bit of research and sort of test out a few support groups to find the one that actually works for you. Okay, number 5, education. And this is about learning about narcissistic abuse and what it actually is and what its effects are, to help survivors understand what they went through and how to move forward. So did you do a lot of researching and get a lot of education on narcissism?
Yes, me and you did it together. So yes, I definitely learned a lot about that. And like we had talked about in our first podcast, I had no idea what a narcissist really was. And then learning about the traits and the habits of a narcissist made me realize that yes, he was somewhat of one, and it wasn't me. Like, I think that was the biggest thing, is learning about that was like giving me reassurance that it wasn't really me that was making him act the way he was.
There you go. That's huge. So then you recommend educating yourself so that you can learn how to step away from making it personal.
definitely. I recommend doing research, but don't let it get too much in your head where you're thinking that everybody you meet that gets a little upset is a narcissist. So that is another thing, right? That's another thing too, is making sure you're really keeping your eyes open and not just automatically going, well, that person got mad at me today, so they're a narcissist,
Yeah, exactly.
right?
And
Yeah.
that's exactly right. And we do have to be careful because in our culture today, narcissism is a word that's being tossed about by everybody. And it's not everybody. I mean, we're all narcissistic, every one of us. Every one of us, because I don't know about you, but I like to look in the mirror when I comb my hair, and I like to look good when I walk out the door. We all care about that, right? And that's narcissism, but it's at the very minor end of the scale. Narcissistic behavior goes from me combing my hair to the psychopath, sociopath, and there's a whole scale all the way in between there. So you're absolutely right. That I think it's kind of interesting how we are able to look at the narcissist in our life and identify them through some of the traits we do learn about narcissism when we do educate ourselves, and being able to step away from taking it personally and saying it's my fault, because that's huge, because that's what they want you to think, right? It's all your fault.
And it's very hard to do that.
Yeah, and we mentioned too earlier on in one of our other episodes that narcissists never take responsibility for anything. So they will blame you for everything. And so then you start to believe them. Okay, so let's go to boundaries. Number 6, setting boundaries. How did you do that? I know setting healthy boundaries can help survivors with a sense of control, help them protect themselves from further harm. So how did you change your boundaries, Jess?
So at the starting, for boundaries, I actually started with the narcissist. So I completely cut contact with him. I blocked his number. I made sure that he could not contact me. And that completely helped. So not having any contact, no more negativity from him was a huge first step. So I think that helped me as well to learn about boundaries with other people. So I think I'm a lot more assertive now. I don't let people step on me. I will tell people when I'm feeling uncomfortable. Before, I think I would hide my feelings and go get upset later or shut down completely. But I'm still working on that. So
yeah, that's really good though.
Yeah.
That's really good. Just being aware of the fact that the boundaries that you set with him after you left the relationship by cutting him off and going no contact, complete no contact. Do you recommend that, by the way? Do you think that's really important when somebody comes out of this kind of abusive relationship?
Yes, I 100% think you need to cut contact, because you will never heal properly, because that person will always have you on a hook, even if it's negative still, right? So
yeah, you know what? This is a really good time for you to can you tell me what you told me about your friend that you saw sitting on a park bench, or you saw him and you hadn't seen him for a long time, and he works at a hardware store, I think.
Oh, yes.
Can you tell me about that interaction that you had so that people can understand? Because remember, everybody, it's 1.5 years since Jess has been out of this relationship with absolutely no contact with her abuser. So go ahead, Jess.
Yeah, so I'll give you a little bit of a background short story, so I'm not too long. But Craig, the guy that my grandma's talking about, he was a friend from an old job. Really, really great guy. He works at Home Depot. He's worked there for a long time. My ex was really big into construction, so he's always at Home Depot. And he knew Craig because we saw Craig a lot at Home Depot. And I just recently reconnected with Craig. I hadn't seen him in about 2 or 3 years. And I saw him one day sitting on a bench, like Grandma just said. And we sat down, got to chatting, saying, how's it going? How's it been? Right. And Craig told me that he got a nice visit from Dee while he was at work. And he came in and started ranting to Craig about how it was the best thing he ever did leaving me. And he was calling me names, and we don't need to repeat those names right now. But yeah, basically just completely making it look like I was the one that was the toxic, horrible person. And well, I'll just touch on that for a second. It doesn't mean I wasn't a little bit toxic, because to be in that relationship, you can be toxic in your head to yourself as well. So, but yes.
Yeah. But you know what? Isn't that interesting that after 1.5 years, he's still talking about the relationship, and he's still having to validate why he's not with you anymore. And he has to make it look like he made that call, when you
Yeah.
actually left him. Because, and it's important for people to understand that, I know other people that have been involved in narcissistic relationships and they have gotten out of them, moved into different properties, et cetera, but they're still maintaining contact. And that narc is still in charge, still in control.
Yep.
It's crazy. You have to let go completely. So good for you. That's really good advice. And the fact that it's allowing you to also set boundaries or learn how to set boundaries with others and really stand up for yourself, that's really good too. I really like that.
Yeah, because empaths feel like it's hard to let go because they think, well, I want to help this person because they're damaged, right? So
yeah, that's true. Empaths do want to help all the time. We're fixers, right?
Yeah, it's annoying.
yeah, it can be. It can be. Okay, number 7, positive affirmations. I'm going to let you just run with this. What does that mean to you, and how have you used them, or have you used them?
Okay, so positive affirmations are statements that are positive. They are positive statements like, today will be a great day, I will thrive, and I'm beautiful, and the sun is shining. So that's
first person, positive statement, present tense.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yes, I definitely, positive affirmations were a little hard for me at the start because I was still in that self-hate scenario in my head where, I was like, wow, whatever, sure, I can say these things, but I think over time, as I kept working with it and kept doing it, it helped me a lot. And then, so there is another form of positive affirmations, which would be mirror work is another form of it, where you look at yourself in the mirror, look at yourself in the eyes, which is hard, and tell yourself you're wonderful, you're great, you're a badass, you're flipping unbelievable, and you're going to kill the day, conquer the whatever comes to you. And you just focus on yourself. And it does help over time. It's so easy. You can just look in the mirror and go, you're cool. I like you. And
yeah, that's so fun, isn't it? It's so comical that you used the word badass, because I was looking today I got an actual email actually today from a gal named Jensen Cheryl. And Jensen Cheryl she wrote a book called You're a Badass.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really good. And I really like her book, and I really like her writing and her style. She's pretty cool. But just so you use the word badass, and she deals this kind of work she does is this kind of stuff. So it's pretty funny.
I said that's my favorite thing to say to myself in the mirror is, you're a badass. Just
Right on. Right on. Ah, that's awesome. So that's really good. So positive affirmations, always a first person, present tense, positive statement. So it has to be in the now. It can't be for tomorrow or for last week. And it has to be about you, first person, and it has to be now, and it has to be positive. So just remember that. Okay, number 8, creative expression. You were telling me a little story about how you've been getting more and more creative. Do you want to share?
Yeah, so I think our listeners know that I'm a chef already, so I'm already quite creative every single day. In my work, I do lots of creative things, but I have a coworker that is part-time, and she is more of an artsy person. She likes to do actual crafts, with materials, and she works with little kids all the time with that kind of stuff, and she's wonderful, and that's something that actually helps her. It's her therapy when she's feeling down. So she's pulled me into that aspect, so the art aspect. And that's actually helped me a lot too. I find it very therapeutic to sit down and create something that is yours. And that's something that you're putting your personality into, and you're forgetting about everything because you're so focused on your pretty project or whatever you're doing. And I think it really helps.
Yeah, good. And Jess showed me actually a sun catcher that she made out of gems and a wire, and it's really gorgeous. It's really beautiful. So yeah, creativity, writing again is a part of that process too. Journaling could be part of the creative expression as well. Writing in a journal, but expressing yourself, that's a safe and healthy way for expressing, right? Okay, mindfulness. Now, we had a discussion, Jess and I, about mindfulness and what mindfulness actually means. Mindfulness is, and let me explain to the listeners here, practicing mindfulness can help survivors stay present in the moment and cultivate a sense of calm and inner peace. So similar to positive affirmations, but what you're doing is you're living in the now instead of always obsessing about what was or obsessing about what will be. And that is the way you fully engage with your full life and in the fullness of your life. I don't know if mindfulness is all that familiar to Jess. Go ahead, Jess, and Is it something that you have actually feel like you've been practicing?
So I don't think I have, because when we did have that conversation, I had in my mind that I was, and then I started talking more about you with situations, and we both realized that I'm really not. I still bring up stuff that's in the past, and I let it affect me. So that's something, like you told me, that comes with practice as well. Just
Exactly.
being able to let it
Actually,
go.
that's a good point. And thanks for bringing that up. Practice, practice, practice in all of these. Don't they all take practice? If you have educated yourself about narcissistic abuse and then you just turn around and forget everything you learned, what good did it do you? You've got to practice thinking positive, keep working with your affirmations, keep working with your boundaries and making sure nobody's breaching those. Keep journaling if you decide that's something you want to do, or take up whatever creative activity you wish to take up. And good self-care, so doing the walking, the yoga, the meditations, exercising, time in nature like you suggested, all really, 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 really good. This is a huge one, this last one. This is number 10, forgiveness. And this is not, okay, now forgiveness is about you. It's not about the other person. Forgiving the narcissist, even if it's just for your own benefit, can really help survivors release anger and resentment and move towards healing. Forgiveness is misunderstood in our society. A lot of people believe forgiving means forgetting. You're never going to forget what happened to you. You're never going to forget. But what you want to do is you want to release the emotional connection to that negative event. And forgiveness is the way to do that, which is you saying, I forgive you for doing what you did or for being who you were to me, because I don't want to carry this anger, this sadness, this grief, this frustration, this annoyance anymore, and allowing yourself to step through that. Jess, what has been your experience in that?
So I think that I haven't fully done that. I think I'm in that stage right now, maybe with myself, because we all go through the stages in different times, right? Like we have our own pace. So I think I definitely need to learn how to do that with myself, whether it's to sit down and maybe do a meditation and talk in my own head and say, I forgive him, I forgive that, so I can let that go, so that other angry people in my life aren't affecting me as much, because that is another thing I still struggle with is anger. I either get angry back or I clam up and I get red and sweaty and I just can't deal with it. Even if it's not anything big, it's just some little rude comment or it just still gets me. So I am still working on that myself.
Good for you. Good for you. So some of these techniques and tools you've been successful in using on a real full-time manner, and others are still sort of new to you. Tell me something, Jess, just to wrap this whole thing up, because we are at 25 minutes, which is our longest podcast so far. What is your favorite thing to do to help you have a better day?
So positive affirmations, the mirror work, those are one of my favorite things. Going for walks, so doing the therapy outside kind of thing, self-care. And then the creative expression. So if you're feeling bad, sit down, just draw a picture. Even if you're not good at drawing, who cares?
Yeah.
Just draw, Yeah.
Good idea. Good advice. Great. Awesome. Well, thank you, kiddo. I appreciate having you here. I pulled a card from the Animal Spirit deck. Stephen Farmer's. This is the messages from your animal spirit guides. I pulled a card. Before I share it with you guys, though, I want you to remember you can go over to www.sharynrose.com. All the information's there. All the podcasts are there. We're on episode, I think this is either 87 or 88. I can't remember. It might be, I don't know. But we're up there. We're going to come up to our hundreds pretty quick, and we're going to have some special stuff going on. So hopefully you listen in. Don't forget to go over to the Facebook page, Sharyn Rose Psychic Coach and Medium, where you can play there. Every Wednesday, I have cards that go down. Go and check it out and see what you think. And get on that page, like that page, so you can be caught up on what's coming up. Okay? All right, everybody. I picked a card out of that deck called the Roadrunner. And the Roadrunner says, keep your sense of humor and don't take things too seriously.
Oh, perfect.
Isn't that awesome, Jess?
That's so perfect. Yeah.
Thanks again, kiddo, for coming on this podcast. I really appreciate you, and I appreciate your journey and all the work that you've been doing. Thank you so much. And for all of you listening out there, thank you for tuning in. We appreciate you, and we will be back again another day. Well, actually, I'll be back next week. Jess and I are going to see if we want to do any more of these together. So take care of yourselves. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye for now.
Thank you for listening to Spirit Rising with Psychic Sharyn Rose, formerly the Medium Well podcast. Still the same great podcast with the same great advice from Sharyn Rose. Make sure you follow us on your favorite podcast player, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, Google Podcasts, and never miss an episode. All you have to do is follow on your favorite player, and you'll be able to catch a new episode of Spirit Rising with Psychic Sharyn Rose every Wednesday, released at 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. We'll talk to you next time.